What's that thing that really makes you want to get up in the morning?
For me, I guess the simplest answer is I like money. I work for the largest investment bank in the world. I have taken 9 companies public. I am so glad that it's finally acceptable for women to talk about success. Are you still locking up drug dealers?
I'm actually in white-collar crime.
You got a file on us?
We have a file on everyone.
I guess you've heard the talk.
They'll be naming a new global head.
I'm gonna be frank with you. The perception is that you rub people the wrong way.
Remind me why I didn't marry you.
Yeah, well, men like a girl they can take care of. I'm gonna take your company public. Are you ready to be the rock star?
Oh, yeah. Big smiles, we're gonna make a lot of money.
Well done.
This thing is getting hot.
You guys went in on this now.
We just raised $250 million.
When Ed hits on you, you have to handle him professionally and very gently.
Yeah. I know how this works.
Did he give you anything on the hedge fund guy?
She's not gonna give us anything.
Now don't go doing anything rash. You're not in narcotics anymore.
Somebody leaked a rumor about my IPO.
I didn't do anything.
Yes, you did. Because you needed it.
You don't know what I need.
You have nothing on me, do you?
Is that a challenge?
You've been investigating him? I can't really comment on that. Did you leak this thing?
Are you wearing a wire?
It's all just a big game to you, isn't it?
What else is there? Is there a problem? This doesn't look like your year.
Secure? Yeah. Powerful? Absolutely. Don't let money be a dirty word.
Hi, guys. What better way to spend this sweltering Thursday than talking about cold, hard cash?
Totally. In air
Right?
conditioning.
So, my dear, you act, you write, you're a mom, but let's start with the writing first. We'll go backwards a little bit. You co-wrote this movie. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I did the screenplay for my last film backwards. For this one, what I did is I came up with the idea for the movie, and then I partnered with Alicia Reiner and Amy Fox, who wrote the screenplay, to develop the story. And that meant kind of interviewing lots of top real Wall Streeters, developing my character, and hearing the truth from the women who work on Wall Street about what it's like, and putting that into the screenplay that Amy wrote.
So what is it like working on Wall Street when you're a powerful woman? Because those are the stories, I mean, you look at the CEOs of all the major companies, mostly men.
Yeah.
You look at the investment banks, mostly men. You don't see these stories.
No, not at all. You know, it's a really tough job, the women who work on Wall Street. And what we learned is it's balancing a really fine line between being too tough and being too nice. And I think that's something people in business, men or women, can kind of understand, which is how do you be a business individual but not come off too tough or too nice?
What surprised you the most when you interviewed these women? And how many did you interview?
Well, I personally interviewed well over 100. Wow. Yeah, and there were men and women, actually, and it was just fascinating. What surprised me most was the women who said that they had to hide their pregnancy.
Which your character also.
Which we put in the
Yes.
script. So women said that they had to hide their pregnancy for up to 20 weeks, or they were scared that they wouldn't get a promotion, or it wouldn't be good for business. And we thought that was really fascinating because it's 2016, and you would think that, who cares? You're pregnant, you have a baby, you go back to work. But apparently it was a big issue.
Cycle of life, right?
Yeah. Well, and these women are in sales, and most of the people they're selling to are men. And so they're worried about their appearance as well. That was also very surprising because my business obviously has a lot to do with appearance and what you wear, but you would be surprised that the finance community would be the same.
How did you find these people that were willing to talk to you?
This is a really funny story. I read in the New York Times an article about a major Wall Streeter in the business section who was a rower. And my last movie that I did with James Van Der Beek called Backwards was about women's rowing. So I wrote him a letter, a cold letter. I didn't even know where to send it. I just sent it to his bank. And I sent him a copy of my first movie. And I said, I have this idea. I want to do a story about women on Wall Street. I want to tell a story that hasn't been told that's more realistic. There won't be strip clubs. You know, it will depict the gray lines on Wall Street. Will you meet with me? And I had a meeting within 2 weeks. Yeah, and then he sat down and we talked for a while, and it was that individual that opened the door to me on Wall Street by picking up the phone and saying, you have to meet with this woman, you have to tell her your stories. And some of those women actually ended up investing and financing the movie.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so write letters, no emails, right?
Don't tweet at people.
Don't tweet. No, I'm kidding, I love Twitter.
As I tweet at you.
Yeah.
What kind of questions did you ask them? Because really, this is so interesting. And as I was telling you, so many of my friends are involved in Wall Street, but it's always the husbands. They're not, they have kind of artsy jobs, so to speak. I guess it's not like, not to genderize, but it's very rare to find a woman, especially a woman who has a family, that can have a power job like this.
Totally. Well, these women travel all the time, and it's an all-consuming job, so it requires a lot of help. Actually, one of the most interesting things I learned in research was that in other areas of the world, there are more women in finance where help is cheaper for like babysitters and even
provides assistance.
Yeah, and even people like chefs, where you think you don't need a chef, but if you're traveling 7 days a week to Hong Kong, to London, to New York, and you're in a city for a day, you can't necessarily have a family unless you have the help. I thought that was really interesting.
How did you write your own character?
Yeah, so Erin is this younger, up-and-coming Wall Streeter who thinks she can have it all, which I think is a really fascinating concept for a character. She's young, she's ambitious, she's married, and she's pregnant. And she fully grew up in the generation where she's like, this isn't a problem. And then she discovers through, you know, the journey of the film that life's a little more complicated and that you actually can't have it all and you have to make choices in life. And for me as an artist, when I create anything, it's important that we have complex female characters, no matter who it is in the film. And so with all three women in this film, we made them complex. And for Erin specifically, she's not vanilla. She's not all good. She may be likable, she may not be likable at certain points, just like Naomi Bishop, who's played by the fantastic Anna Gunn. And that's really important. She's not the girlfriend, she's, you know, that she has flaws. She has major flaws, and that was important developing.
And it's so interesting, too, because she learns that, yes, you can have it all, but not all the time, and not very well.
Yes, her marriage suffers. You know, it's funny you say, so she actually has an artist husband, because a lot of the women who work on Wall Street have husbands who work on Wall Street, but also some of them have husbands that have to work at home and take that function in the family. So Erin's husband's artsy, but does not want to take that function at home. So we have this kind of ultrasound scene that's a lot of fun in the movie, where Erin's in an ultrasound, and in the movies you always see these ultrasounds where the girl's like, oh, there's the baby, yay, crying, so happy. And Mira, the fantastic director for this film, Mira Menon, made sure that that scene was very nuanced, where Erin is not happy to be with her husband in the ultrasound because she has a work call and she's got to take care of business.
Now, this mirrored your own life in some ways too, right?
Totally. So I have a 2-year-old named Christopher, and he was 1 when we were shooting the film, and my husband works a full-time job, and so and we shot in Philly because of the tax credit, and so I was away all summer, and actually this year it started with Sundance. We've been traveling a lot with the film, festivals, promoting. And so, you know, I've had to, I have a nanny that's full-time, my parents chip in, but it's been really tough because, especially as a woman, when people are like, oh, are you bringing your son? And I'm like, I can't. Like, I don't know how I would do that. He's 2. It's really, really tough. But, so I really respect women everywhere, and I have no idea how single moms do it, by the way. So, I mean, if I didn't have the support of a husband, I don't think it would be possible.
Well, you figure out a way, but I mean, it's like you said, something has to give.
Something has to give.
It always does.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't know why we have this conversation about having it all. I don't know that men have that.
With that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think men have that conversation. I don't think it's expected. I don't know. It's an interesting.
Do you ever recall a male actor being asked or a male director being asked, how do you balance work and family?
No.
Or how do you keep your marriage intact?
Or how's your kid, and are you bringing your kid with you on your press tour? That would be an interesting question. I wonder if any guy's been asked that. We'll have to ask James Purefoy, who has kids and is so handsome and good in this movie, ladies.
How did you cast Anna Gunn? Because she's an
Sure.
unconventional lead. I mean, I know we know her from Breaking Bad, but this is, I think, the first movie she's carrying.
It is, actually. And when we were looking at actresses for the role, it was very important to my producing partner and I that we hired someone who felt real to the world. We didn't want to have a glamorized version of this movie. So Anna Gunn, I knew from Breaking Bad, and I think Alicia did as well, and loved her acting there. And so we really wanted to offer the role because we knew that she would bring a real quality to the role, and she knocks it out of the park.
You have so much confidence. I mean, this is your second movie. It deals with such a massive topic. How did you know that it was going to work?
I didn't. You fake it till you make it. I have a sports background, and I think that's a really helpful thing because in sports you lose a lot, and you learn to balance your losses with your wins. So going into my first film, I was really naive, and I thought it would be easy. And then I learned and I think if I'd have known then how hard producing, acting, writing is together, I may not have thought I could do it because I didn't know what it entailed. I just went into it blindly, and that was a great way to do it because when I'm in something, I'm like, it's getting done. It's just getting done.
What was the biggest challenge for you in getting this done?
I think the acting and the producing side by side, especially because this is like an indie, and so we don't have, there were two producers on this movie, me and Alicia, and we were both acting in it. So you don't ever have time to put the work on someone else, and on an indie film set, you can't solve your problems with money. You can't throw cash at the problem. And we didn't have like a completion bond, so if we don't make our schedule, the film folds and everyone loses their money. So and you shoot 6-day weeks, and then when you're done acting for 14 hours, you've got to produce for 4 more hours and then try and get some sleep. So that balance is really tricky. But in the end, I do love producing as well because you get the whole, like when you go and show up on set just as an actress, which I do as well, you just act and you go home, and that's your job, your character. But your job isn't the whole picture of the whole movie, and it's fun to get a say in what the end product looks like.
What was your vision for this movie when you started out, and did anything wind up being very different from how you imagined, either the shooting process or the final product?
Yeah, so my vision early on was to create a really realistic Wall Street. It's not glossy in feel, so while I personally love The Wolf of Wall Street as a piece of art, it has a very glossy, and that's part of the attraction, by the way, like seeing this rich world with great pools.
Yachts and champagne and hookers.
Yes. So for us, even the shooting, very real, almost more Friday Night Lights, which I'm a huge fan of. Really getting to the relationships in this movie as much as you can in a thriller. And then in terms of like the biggest surprise is we were all sitting in the edit room one day, and we had really wanted to make a somewhat positive twist on Wall Street. And we realized what a dark movie we had. And especially since some of our investors work on Wall Street, and they were fantastic and so supportive, but we had to call them and say, this is a fictional movie, and the end product, what we shot, is a little darker message about working on Wall Street.
Do you think Wall Street gets a bum rap? Because when you think about it, so much of the employment of New York City depends on Wall Street and bonuses.
Totally. Well, I have a lot of girlfriends who work on Wall Street, and was part of the inspiration for this story, seeing these amazing women and men who work in finance. And I think they do get a bad rap. I think there are evil people who work on Wall Street. There are evil lawyers, there are evil doctors, there are evil people, there are bad guys. But as a whole, I think to villainize an entire industry, when there's so many, they're like doctors, there's so many divisions of Wall Street, and they do so many things, and they're necessary to all of us. So that was part of this film, is exploring that and exploring the bad people who work on Wall Street, but also the good people. And that was the choice that we made in developing Anna Gunn's character in the writing process, that she is a good character. She is a moral Wall Street character.
Yeah, because you really don't see that a lot. Mostly it's,
Totally.
how big is my bonus and how big is the car that I'm going to get
Totally.
with my bonus.
Well, and also what's interesting about this film is it's post-financial crisis, so it takes place current day. And another surprising thing we learned in the interview process, when I was researching my character and like how much money she has, she actually doesn't have that much money. So the bonuses have gone down so much because of the regulations, and especially to the young up-and-comers. Like the very senior people still make very nice paydays we all hear about. But if you're a VP at a bank, in New York, your income is pretty middle wage. And if you don't get a good bonus, if you could get a zero bonus, you could be out of your apartment. And so that added to Erin's pressures, especially with the pregnancy and all that.
I think it's so interesting. I want to go back to that, how you explore the issue of pregnancy in the workplace and how complex that is, and how so many women, I think we both know, hide it or lie about it because it's kind of career suicide in a lot of places.
Totally. Backwards, my last movie came out, and then I got pregnant with my son, and my son had a lot of complications. He's fine now, but he needed a lot of therapists post childbirth, and so I had to take some time off. I took well over a year off, and this is why I could relate to Erin, my character. And in my industry, unfortunately, people are like, "What did you do?" And I said, "Well, I've done nothing for a year and a half. I've had a baby, and I've been taking care of him at the hospital." But that's not an answer. It stops your and so I couldn't get jobs. And I think that happens to people in real life in any business. They go away for maternity leave, or they take a year or two off to be with their kids. And then when they want to go back in the workforce, they find that their place is taken. And these are people who have so much to add to our society. So this is, we like to say with this film, we hope it's like a stealth bomb. Like, you enjoy the movie, it's a Wall Street movie, it's entertaining. But then when you go out and have your drink and talk about it, you talk about these issues and are like, let's try and do something about them.
Do you view yourself as a female filmmaker or just a filmmaker?
Gosh, that's such a great question.
Because
I love being a female filmmaker.
I mean, you are a lady,
yeah.
so I guess that party has...
Yeah. Well, people always ask me about, like, clothes. Like, do you, like, the red carpet thing, do you mind if people ask you what you wear? This is Zach Posen, by the way. And the answer is, like, no, I love being a woman and everything that brings. So I consider myself a female filmmaker, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
No, and I was just asking in the sense of, do you feel a responsibility to tell women's stories in a more thoughtful way that maybe a dude would? I don't know.
Totally. I think the reason there need to be more female filmmakers, first of all, it will create more female directors as well, just inherently. But just to balance, like, I don't think in my heart I could tell a story about a 16-year-old boy, or I couldn't have done Boyhood in the way that it was done so well, only because it's not so personal to me and my experiences as an artist in life. So I do think it's important as a woman to tell those stories. That said, my style, just my personal style, is I like things commercial, and I like things that don't overdo the issues.
That don't hit you over the head.
Yeah,
this
totally.
Is what you must take home from watching.
Totally, yeah, absolutely. And that was actually an interesting struggle in the edit room here, like, which lines do we keep? And actually, our favorite review that came out of Sundance said that these 3 female roles could have been played by men. And to me, that's the best compliment you could give.
Well, I just saw the new Bourne movie yesterday.
That's our competition.
It's
Come
great.
on, Sarah or Matt Damon? Let's see.
Both. They're
Both.
very different.
You could go to 2 movies in one day.
The Alicia Vikander character.
Yeah.
Could have. I mean, I love Paul Greengrass for writing her in such a way
Yeah.
that she could have been played by any male actor. Like,
Yeah.
I love seeing that, and it's so rare to see that.
Well, and just encouraging networks and TV shows to, the doctor doesn't have to be a guy. Flip it. Flip any role and see if it works, because it probably will.
And if it doesn't, then it's maybe the writing.
Exactly. It's not the woman.
And before we turn it over to the audience, what are some of your favorite Wall Street movies?
Wow, that's...
What did you watch, or did you watch anything to prep for this?
Well, I've seen every single Wall Street movie because I love Wall Street movies.
Me too. They're like my guilty pleasure. I love them.
They're like a genre in and of itself.
I mean, Gordon Gekko, come on now.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think
First
Wall
Wall
Street.
Street?
I think it's the classic. It's just the classic. It's just brilliant. Michael Douglas is incredible. Yeah, I would go with that one. What is yours?
Wolf of Wall Street, because the drug
Yeah.
scene with Leo is
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
You guys see it? Oh my God, that drug scene. That was just,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in the realm of acting or directing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And Wall Street movies are fun to act in. They're fun, juicy characters.
And the stakes are pretty, I mean, they're not life or death, but they kind of are in a financial
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, no, they are life and death. I think people take their jobs on Wall Street. You know, if you lose someone's pension, you know, that's a lot of stress to have if you're managing their money and stuff. Yeah.
Think you could work on Wall Street?
No. I can play a girl who works on Wall Street.
Why couldn't you? I mean, I couldn't either because I suck at math, but
I hate planes, so it's hard enough to get me to travel for a press tour versus like flying every day. No, you know, they work. I like managing my own schedule. That's something that I've always liked. So their schedules are tough.
by the way, I hate flying too, and do you know what the best thing is? Turbulenceforecast.com.
Are you serious?
Totally.
I've never heard of that.
Totally.
Okay.
You get live updates from pilots on turbulence.
Really?
You can mentally prepare yourself. You can like follow, yeah, it's amazing.
The worst is when you get on a plane and the pilot's like, oh, this is going to be a smooth flight. And then 5 minutes later, it's like the worst turbulence ever. And you're like, oh my God,
I
going
was
down.
once on a flight where I asked them if there was going to be turbulence. They were like, no. And then I heard them whispering. They were like, that dumbass. Like, this flight always has turbulence. And I was like, talking about me.
Yeah, totally.
Turbulence forecast. And
All
now
right,
to
for
our
Monday.
audience.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So you said that in making this film, it was you really want to tell the stories of the woman who worked on Wall Street, and so I was wondering, do you consider yourself feminist in the sense that it is important for your work to reflect the stories of women that often go unheard?
Yes, and I think feminism shouldn't be a dirty word. I mean, there are a lot of male feminists. I think feminism to me is
equal
embracing
rights.
being a woman and being equal and being 50% of the population. It's not saying women are better than men or there's not a great place for men in society, although a woman should be president. Just want to slip
Amen.
that in there.
I could not agree more. And yeah, feminism, all that means is like equal pay,
Right.
equal rights.
Right. I think feminism
something-
comes with this like connotation that can be negative, and I think we should change that so that it's just embraced.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
So I was just wondering, do you have any favorite films, TV shows, plays, anything that was kind of created and brought into this world by women that has inspired you?
Oh, what a great question. I mean, I think the short answer is there aren't enough products made by women, and that is actually really sad. There's so many female playwrights that I love. Amy Fox, who wrote this screenplay, is a fantastic playwright. Wendy Wasterstein. In terms of filmmakers, Jennifer Westfeldt, I love a lot because she, like me, is also an actress, and she creates these fantastic low-budget films that people relate to commercially. Yeah.
Next question, please.
Hello, my name is Naomi. I'm excited to be here, so thank you for being here today.
course.
But I know you talked a little bit about the production side of things, and is there anything going forward for your next film that you would kind of change or add, any trial and error things or things that didn't work or did?
She wants $100 million.
That's what I was about to say. I would add a lot more money. And actually, one of the taglines for this movie is "Don't let money be a dirty word." Like, let's talk about it. I would like a little more money for my next film, both personally and for the movie. We had such a great cast and crew. I would also love more time. So we shot this movie in 4 weeks. And that is tight, I would like 97 takes, like David Fincher, for my next movie.
But you know what? You're the Clint Eastwood of filmmakers with 3 takes, and that's great too.
Exactly.
Last question, please.
Exactly.
Hi.
Hi.
So, when you're creating a character for yourself, do you try to keep yourself out of the character, or do you try to mold something that is basically you with a different name?
That's a great question. With my first film, it was a little bit more of me in terms of, I brought a lot more of it was a rowing film. I had been a rower, and I brought more of my personal experiences, especially since I wrote that screenplay. So it wasn't a biography in any way, shape, or form, but it was more relatable to me as a human being. This one was completely different. I have never held a day job in any like 9-to-5 way, except like, I mean, like I worked in the bakery in high school and stuff, but like once I graduated from high school, I've been in the arts. I mean, from college, sorry. So this one was really interesting to get outside and be like, what is it like to wake up every morning, put on a suit, and go to the office?
And when can we see Equity?
July 29th in New York, LA, and then it spreads to select cities in August, and it is nationwide September 2nd. And go see it in the movies. I know everybody likes their pads, but the sound is much better on the big screen.
Thank you so much for
being here. Thank you.